Well done, Bobby Charlton. Well done, Manchester United.
Beckham. It's a Sheringham. And Solskjaer has done it. Van der Sar saved it. United again. Rooney. A magnificent goal by Robin van Persie.
Welcome to United Hour, your official Red Cafe podcast for all things Manchester United. I'm your host, Ed.
I'm Ashwin.
And I'm Jamie.
Right, welcome.
Thanks for having us, Ed.
Yeah, thanks for inviting us, man.
Yeah, no problem. I mean, you're the only guys who will come on with me, so...
It's the A-team, man. It's the A-team.
Yeah, it definitely is the A-team. So, the season's over. We've got through it. So we've just played Sevilla and Copenhagen, and unfortunately we were lost in the semi-final against Sevilla. I thought we started the game against Sevilla with a good intensity. We had, certainly the goalkeeper had to put in some decent saves, but it just didn't happen for us. What do you guys think?
I wasn't that upset afterwards. I guess one, because we'd already qualified for Champions League, which was really the only reason I cared about Europa League.
Definitely the pressure was off in that regard.
Yeah, and more importantly, yes, there are individual errors that were really bad, right? Like, Wan-Bissaka he had one or two that were terrible, cost us goals. Lindelof came in for well-deserved criticism. Brandon Williams also deservedly criticized. Rashford wasn't on it, I guess you could say. We weren't clinical in front of net, but I thought the overall performance was good. You play like that, more than not, you're going to win. And it's almost like I'm being very nice about that, but ultimately, that's kind of I don't know. There were matches this year we won, and people were rightfully annoyed that we hadn't played quote unquote well. Right? I don't think we didn't play well in this match. I think we dominated them. I think that this was a team that was really in form in La Liga. I don't think they had lost since the restart. I'm pretty sure they had the stingiest defense in Spain during that time.
Yeah.
And we cut them apart several times. In the first 20 minutes and in the first 20 minutes of the second half, we absolutely cut them apart. And even when we weren't creating as much outside of those periods, they created 2 fucking chances. Okay? That's really what happened. They didn't. It's not like they were, we got off the hook and then eventually, because of how much opportunity they had, they created something. No. We dominated that match, and we lost because of stupid individual mistakes. Now, is it a concern that those mistakes continue to happen? Or yes, obviously, those are things you need to worry about. But those are also reasons why you need competition for positions. Wan-Bissaka, he's played God knows how many minutes this year, okay? And he's probably covered the most ground out of any outfield player in the team, I would imagine.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to make it okay that he had a slip in concentration and quite frankly, has looked like he's lost half a yard of pace in the last bit. But it's also understandable. That's I don't understand. Because people can say, we need somebody. Who are you fucking getting that's better right now? You're going to put Fosu Mensah there? You're going to play Brandon Williams on the right? You're not going to do any of those things.
Diogo Dalot.
And then Lindelof, Bailly and Tuanzebe, these guys can't get off the fucking injury table. So I don't know. I understand why people are upset, but I also think it's completely overboard, and I think people really need to chill the fuck out.
Yeah, I mean, throughout the season, there aren't that many mistakes Wan-Bissaka's made. It's just unfortunate that the ones that he has made have come in a do-or-die game. I think another thing people have been annoyed at is that it's taken a penalty for us to score in the last 2 Europa League games at the very least, and wasn't it Leicester we needed a penalty to score to at least get the lead? Is this an issue with the way we're attacking games, or is it, are we struggling to score from open play?
I don't think it's an issue in terms of we're relying on penalties to win games because we can't create chances. It was really frustrating the other night. I mean, I said to Nick a couple of weeks ago that I was wanting us to treat the Europa League as a pre-season because we are going to have so little time before the start of next season to get any sort of practice, to get any sort of minutes in the players at all. And while I appreciated, it's a competition I would like us to win, absolutely. I'm not treating it as the be-all and end-all. But at the same time, it did really frustrate me the other night for a couple of reasons. The big one was just the sheer number of chances we've missed. in the game is frightening, and it's 2 mistakes. It's 2 mistakes have resulted in 2 goals, and whether people want to say, it's the Europa League, it doesn't matter. It's the semi-final of a European competition. If you make mistakes like that against a team like Sevilla, you will get punished.
Yeah.
And if you're not taking chances at the other end, equally, you're going to get punished. That was the biggest source of frustration for me. It wasn't how we played in terms of attacking, because we made loads of chances. The 2 keepers over the Copenhagen game and the Sevilla game have put in unbelievable performances and made save after save, granted. But we have to be more clinical. There's no excuses. You can point to the keepers and say, yep, they played really well. At the end of the day, that's their job. They're meant to stop the ball.
Yeah.
We need to be far more clinical. I mean, 2 or 3 of the chances Martial missed the other night, he just doesn't normally miss them. Just right in front of the goalie, where he's just trying to lift it just over the top of the goalie into the net. He's normally really good at that. But the 2 chances he had like that didn't come off. The one just outside the box where he curls it over the bar, we've seen him do that 2 or 3 times since lockdown. That just didn't quite come off. Mason Greenwood's really unlucky where Bruno Fernandes plays him in. He takes a great touch on his left foot, smashes it with his right. The keeper makes a really good save. But you still have to be more clinical in front of goal. Defensively, yeah, it was just a nightmare the other night, to be honest. It was just not good enough.
Do you think it's something to do with the way we're coached in terms of attack, or do you think it's just unlucky?
I think it's just one of those things, genuinely. I just think it's one of those things.
This is what happens when you have to rely on 3 players, 4, I guess, if you want to include Bruno too, to score goals. Look at our goals scored by player. I can guarantee you, without fucking looking, I can promise you that we have the least amount of goals scored from substitutes out of the top 4 teams. Maybe even the top 6 teams. I can promise you that's a fact.
Yeah, right. I've got the stats in front of me. So we've got Rashford and Martial, who are in double figures. We've got Mason Greenwood, who's in double figures. We've got Bruno Fernandes, who scored 8.
And that's since January.
Would you start looking beyond that? Paul Pogba, 1. Harry Maguire, 1. Scott McTominay, 4. Victor Lindelof, 1. Brandon Williams, 1. Daniel James, 3. Andres Pereira, 1. That's it.
Yeah, it's not enough. This is why I refuse to get mad. Oh, Rashford dropped form. His form is dropped. Of course his form fucking dropped. That's human nature. Unless you're Messi or you're Ronaldo or you're Neymar or you're one of these Mbappe or one of these just truly, generational type talents. You're not going to score 30 goals from a wing position. You're just not going to do it. And people lose their Sterling. He did nothing for 3 months this year, but you didn't notice it because they can rotate because they have competition, and not just competition. They have if you're not on it for 2 matches, you can get pulled out and you can lose your spot for another 4, 5, 6 matches even. That's the kind of competition you need at a club like United. If you want to really challenge, you want to win the Premier League again, you want to, win Champions League. If you want to compete for these, you need to have goals either from other, your substitutes, your substitute attacking players, or you need to get goals from midfield, and you need to have defenders chipping in with goals. And I would say a bigger issue for me than this whole pattern of play fucking thing that everybody likes talking about is if we're all managers. What bothers me more is how many goals did we score from set pieces this year?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I couldn't even tell you.
Yeah, Maguire, this guy is, I still have nightmares about him scoring a man down in extra time against us. He scored 1 goal this year. That's unacceptable. He scored 3 in the World Cup, was it?
Did he?
He scored a few in the World Cup, I remember that. You have this massive target. To me, if there's an area that we look uncoached, it is attacking set pieces. We've actually improved a lot defending set pieces now, but attacking set pieces, we look absolutely clueless. And it's not even that we're not scoring. We don't even look threatening. Unless it's a direct shot from a free kick, we don't look ever like there's a plan.
I do think part of that is Maguire's not actually that great at heading the ball. I think he's just
big.
He's just got a massive face, just a giant face. It's easy doing a defensive header. All you've got to do is make sure it clears the second man. You don't have to aim it anywhere specific. Whereas when you do an attacking head, you've got to really move your neck and put some muscle into directing the ball towards the goal, particularly when it's like lofted or, even when it's hit pretty hard.
You should have different routines then, right? Like, for example, City, they don't have a lot of aerial prowess, okay? Like, they don't. Like, their team is not built that way. But I think, most of the time under Pep, they've actually done fairly well both in attacking and defensively on set pieces. And I think that's because they have different routines to actually create and pull the we don't even anytime we even play it short, it ends up usually back with De Gea.
Yeah,
if there's a real thing talking about how in what areas do you think the coaching is not up to standard, that for me would be a big one. I don't know, I just have a very hard time. I do agree with Jamie that yes, Martial needs to do better, and especially for him, because he's been so clinical throughout this year and just generally through his career, his conversion rate is really good. And so, for him to miss or not, at least not convert in those positions is very frustrating. But it is really in those times when you need to find goals from somewhere else. And if we really cannot get goals from anyone other than those four players, one of whom came at the end of January. He played less than half of our season. If you cannot get goals from anywhere else, you're gonna struggle. Pogba, last year he was 15 goals, was it? And I know some of that was his, he was taking penalties, but even then, I think from open play he had 8 or 9. He should be getting goals. He had 1 goal after the restart, and I know that he's playing a little bit deeper, but I think that's a bullshit excuse. This guy, he never even looks like he wants to shoot anymore, and when he does, he's always trying to do the finesse shot. He's always trying to hit R1 and finesse it into the corner. And it's just fucking I remember him. Not that I watched back then, but I remember being on the CAF. People were talking about Pogba. Oh, he's this 18-year-old kid, and you'd see these highlights. He'd be scoring these screamers. Absolutely. And I know it's a different level, but he went to Juventus, and you remember there were goals that he would score, and he had one against Swansea early in his career at United where he scored a screamer. And it's just I just don't know why. Maybe that's a coaching thing. Maybe that is something, but I just feel like there are times where he has an opening to shoot from distance, and he takes 2 extra touches or tries to dribble it through 4 guys. And it's just, to me, it's you need to get goals from somewhere else on the pitch, or you need to get better depth in your attacking areas, because otherwise it's just, I have a very hard time blaming, 22 goals from Rashford, 23 from Martial, and 17 from Greenwood. I have a very hard time blaming them for not delivering enough this season.
Yeah, I guess that brings me on to what I was going to ask you next. Was we've brought Ighalo in on loan, and did he come on 87th minute in against Sevilla?
Yeah.
So was that pointless? We've got him until January, but if the manager doesn't trust him to come on and make a difference, do you think that it's worth keeping him around, Jamie?
I think it's worth keeping him around, but the sticking point for me with Ighalo is Rashford. I love Rashford, but Rashford has been terrible for weeks and weeks and weeks. And the 2 games in the Europa League against Copenhagen and against Sevilla, he was contributing nothing. Because he wasn't even, it's not even as though he's not scoring, but he's still making a nuisance of himself. I know he won the penalty, but he wins the penalty by running into the box, having a shot, and the defender just having an absolute brain fart of a moment, and just deciding he's just gonna bring him down for absolutely no reason.
Yeah.
Other than that, he's not contributing anything. The chance he got at the end of the half, where he runs through, and when he got the ball, I turned and said to my girlfriend, who was sat watching the game with me, I was like, he's going to give the ball away here. Because you could just see, in his mind, he was too busy thinking about, I don't know what I'm going to do here. Instead of just head down, drive to the box, and just look to get a shot off, you could just see the way he was running with the ball. He wasn't sure. He wasn't sure if he was going to pass it. He wasn't sure if he was going to try and drag it inside and go for the far corner. He wasn't sure if he was going to just hold the ball up. So his confidence is so low that game the other night, I was sitting there going, this is a perfect chance to just bring him off, because it's clear he's either absolutely knackered, he's still struggling with injury, or it might even be all 3, and his confidence is absolutely on the floor. Bring him off, give him a break, and put Ighalo on. And okay, we know Martial's better through the middle, but as we've seen against Copenhagen as well, Martial can get the ball wide left and drive into the box and make an opportunity. And as Ashwin's saying, we are struggling for goals playing that same way. So just try and change it. We had an hour of absolutely battering Sevilla and couldn't score.
You could start Ighalo in that match. Like you said, I think it's pretty obvious Rashford is struggling for confidence. And we've seen this before. When he struggles for confidence, this is what he looks like.
Yeah, his level's really poor.
Yeah, like this disaster class player. But if you, like, to me, the solution then is, okay, you start Ighalo, let Ighalo play 60 minutes. Even if you have no intention and you don't believe in him to do enough, if you have no intention of letting him finish the match and just think 60 minutes, let him play for 60 minutes and then bring Rashford on when they're a little bit tired.
Yeah.
It's a different look. Like, all of a sudden you're injecting pace, and like, that's another issue with Ole. I think that I understood it with the league because I think there was just no margin for error from where the restart. Like, absolutely. I understood that. So I won't criticize him for that. But in the Europa League, and I know he's desperate for a trophy, but you have to be able to win. Like, if he's going to do this now, in a situation where I don't even think if you if you gave Woodward and the board truth serum, I think they would tell you they didn't care at all if they won Europa League at that point. I think if you're not going to rotate him in this very weird season with all these things going on, him coming back from this injury, just everything going, like, I just think it's very hard to undersee how it's not just about quality depth. And I understand that to an extent, but in this situation, I just think, like, he needs to look at that and be like, look, I believe in, like, I don't think it's hard to have a conversation with him and be like, hey, look, I believe in you.
Yeah. Ferguson done it all the time, though. If players were struggling for form or fitness or whatever it was, you don't need to give the players a roasting and tell them that they need to buck up their ideas. You can just put an arm around them, take them to the side and just say, look, I know you're struggling just now, so what we're going to do is we can change it up. We're going to start Ighalo this game, we'll have you on the bench, and we'll bring you on with 20 minutes, 30 minutes to go with the injection of pace that you can bring in. And I don't see him ever having a problem with that. So to see the same 11 played again and again and again, okay, I totally got it in the league because it was the best 11, and it still is the best 11. But in the Europa League, when it's obvious one of the front three is really struggling for form, for confidence, because of an injury, whatever it may be, I don't see what the problem would have been in just putting Ighalo up front, Martial left, Greenwood right. Because the other thing that really annoyed me the other night was how many times we broke and everybody's narrow. Nobody's keeping the width. If you've put Ighalo on, at least you've got a focal point and somebody can hold the ball up front. And Martial started to do that, but Ighalo is really good at that. I just think it was a shame because it was a real chance to try something else, and we just didn't do it.
Oh, that's it. And like, they scored in what, the 78
12
minutes,
minutes
something
to
like
go.
that?
Yeah.
Change it. Just it doesn't matter, does it? At that
No,
point,
if you give me 2-1 or 3-1, it's irrelevant.
I think to even support that point even further was, I thought towards the end of the league, you could see Matic. He was really kind of on his last legs. I think he was really, like, tired. And Fred came in. I thought Fred was one of our best players against Sevilla.
Yeah, I agree.
That's the exact argument, right? Like, it's not like Matic is going to look at that and be like, oh my God, he doesn't believe in me anymore, right? It's just like, hey, look, like, you did your job. You got us exactly what we needed. I want to give Fred some minutes. That's it. It's not like it's not a death sentence, right? It's just, no, look, Fred, maybe Fred played great in training. Who knows? Just rotate a little bit. I mean, he doesn't need to change the whole 11. But, like, you have to be able to change 2 or 3 players at least. I think that needs to happen. And if you can't do that, then that is a problem. I think that's definitely something going into next season that is a big question mark for Ole, as well as just, like, okay, even if you start the match with Rashford, and you have to see by, like, 60, 65 minutes that, okay, he doesn't have it today. Sucks. He doesn't have it. It is what it is. And then change it. Like, I don't know what the point of changing it at 87 minutes or 88 minutes or whatever the hell the sub. Like, I just don't see what the value of that is.
There isn't, and it's something that Alex in particular has been, quite critical of for quite some time with regards to Ole. Because he says that Ole always said that he needed at least 20 minutes when he was a player to, get the feel of the game once he's on the pitch and, maybe make a difference. So I definitely think perhaps substitutes, sometimes he gets it bang on. And like with the Leicester one, and I think someone kicked off that Lingard came on, but Lingard came on and he sealed the goal, the game for us. And so I do think his substitutes in terms of personnel are right, but not necessarily always.
The times, yeah.
Yeah.
kind of to further to what we were saying about the squad, Ashwin's right in terms of like Wan-Bissaka's minutes. So Wan-Bissaka's got 3,102 minutes. This is only in the league, and my goals stat earlier on, sorry, was just to the Premier League as well. But so for the Premier League this year, Wan-Bissaka's had 3,102 minutes. The only players in the squad with more minutes than Wan-Bissaka is Harry Maguire, is David De Gea, and is Victor Lindelof. That's it. It's 3 players.
Jeez.
You look at that squad, and I've kind of said it a couple of times in our group chat as well when we spoke about, like, what do we think we need this summer, as well as cover at left back. We need, if Brandon Williams is going to be moved over to the right back's position and him and Wan-Bissaka are going to cover the right back, that's fine. But we need cover in at least one of the full back positions, because I like Brandon Williams, but he's not a left back. He really struggles in the left back position.
Yeah.
He looks far more comfortable on the right hand side.
And I thought he particularly struggled against Sevilla as well.
Yes, I thought, was it Navas was on his side?
Yeah.
I think so, yes, yeah.
Navas just went at him time and time and time again, and he was really struggling between trying to decide, was he diving in, was he standing off, was he going to try and let the guy go to the byline, then try and block the cross, was he going to try and stop it before that?
He has a real problem with that overlapping run. He doesn't know which way to go. And that, because I remember against Copenhagen, actually, Lindelof lost his mind on him too, because it was late in the match, and he did the same thing.
Yeah.
And I think and it's like, this is, see, like with Williams, I agree, he's struggling. He struggled a lot. I thought actually in periods of that match, he looked much better than he had in the last few matches. But yeah, like when they have a spell of possession and they're working it down the side, you can tell that he's not sure what he's supposed to do. Should he go with the runner? Should he stay with the ball? And I think that's just something, like, if you're going to start an 18, 19-year-old who really wasn't even supposed to be a significant contributor this year, that's just something that you have to be okay with. And I think Ole is okay. Like, I mean, he wouldn't start him and he wouldn't keep starting him after kind of this dip in form he's had to the end of the season if he wasn't okay with that consequence of it. I think that one thing we need to kind of keep an open mind to is also Wan-Bissaka's never played in a match this important in his life. Okay, like, he's never done it. Brandon Williams has never played in a match of this. Like, you know, he has not done that. And I think players like that, I have a little bit more patience for than, say, you know, Lindelof, who I actually think is, like, I think he gets a lot of shit unnecessarily a lot of times. But in this instance, like, all the criticism he got was deserved. You know, he just completely fell asleep. And, you know, so did Wan-Bissaka, but, like, I think that's definitely Lindelof's mistake more than his as a center half. He is actually an experienced player. He should be taking responsibility in that moment.
Yeah.
And so for me, like, that's something where that is a bigger issue to me than Brandon Williams looking lost at sea, you know, against a pretty experienced and pretty good Sevilla team. Like, I wasn't too surprised by that. And I thought that he did have moments where he looked okay. It's just, you know, again, you're starting an 18, 19-year-old unless they're, you know, some of these great young players that can immediately hit the ground running. There's going to be struggles. And the fact of the matter is, you know, we can say, oh, we could have played Fosu Mensah. Like, I mean, if we're really having that argument, it's not even worth having.
No, you'd always start Brandon Williams in that game. I just think perhaps Rashford could have helped by doubling up a bit more, but at the same time, I guess we needed him further up the pitch. So it's all forgivable for me, really, and it's an experience for them, really, at the end of the day.
Yeah, for the younger guys, but kind of what I was saying at the start of the episode, the defending for the second goal really is atrocious. And I've seen all sorts of arguments about it's Wan-Bissaka, it's Lindelof, it's De Gea, because De Gea doesn't come out and claim the ball.
That's a tough one to put on De Gea. That's a tough one.
I've even seen people saying it's him because he should come out and claim that ball, but not for me. I don't agree with that. But when you watch the goal back, everybody's at fault because Brandon Williams, okay, yeah, young and inexperienced, but Williams fails to cut the cross out, which is the first thing. I've played centre half a wee bit, so I tend to know when you have to mark, when you have to move as one unit, when you have to retreat. And when you watch it back, I have no idea where Harry Maguire's going. I really don't, because he's just pulled to the left of the box to De Gea's left. And when I watched it back, I thought the first time he'd done it was because somebody else from Sevilla must have been next to Navas and is approaching the box, hence the reason he goes to cover. But there's nobody there. There was literally nobody there. The only player in the box is De Jong. So Maguire pulls left. Immediately, because he pulls left, Lindelof pulls left. And Wan-Bissaka's left with De Jong in the middle of the box. So, okay, it's Wan-Bissaka's fault for the goal because he sees De Jong. And okay, he should do more. But the two centre-halves have not got an excuse because they literally have nobody to mark. They just watch the ball come into the box.
The only thing I could guess was he probably just expected Brandon Williams to get beat.
Yeah,
maybe. And was maybe going over to cut it out. Because, and like, you know, I played fullback mostly. So, like, in that situation, if you're, like, you have to show him inside. Because he wants to go outside. He wants to get the cross in. And I just think, like, like you said, there was not, I don't think in that situation there was an overlapping runner.
No, there wasn't. There was just one man, wide.
Yeah, so he has to, I think he has to, in that situation, close down the space, but then show him inside. He can't show him because that's the only thing there that can hurt you. If he comes in and blasts something on his weak foot from 25 yards out to the top corner, beats the hair.
Yeah, that's a wonder goal. You're like, yeah, fine, all right.
Yeah, you take that.
Literally, that's why it was so frustrating, because it was like literally the only thing Sevilla can do in that position is Navas beats Williams, throws a cross into the box. The two defenders from the two centre halves are sleeping. De Jong scores, and that is exactly what happened, because there is literally not another player in the box. Navas has nobody else that he can target. The only player he can target in the box is De Jong. And it was so frustrating just to see the one man that was left with De Jong in the middle of the box was Wan-Bissaka.
Is that the Newcastle De Jong?
No idea.
I think he played in the Premier League, that one. I'm not sure, though.
There's so many De Jongs these days.
And Dembele, Musa Dembele. A lot of Musa Dembeles.
So I guess while we're on the subject, we're going to move on to Dan James soon. But while we're on the subject, how would you guys rate Harry Maguire's season then?
7.5. Are we doing out of 10 or something? Yeah, 7.5, 8, I think. I thought he was pretty good. I think the goals against speaks for itself. And he's like the one guy back there who, anytime he has the ball, yes, he might take time sometimes, like maybe take too many touches sometimes, but he is obviously very critical in establishing that kind of ethos of we're going to play the ball out no matter what. That's how we play. And we're not just going to, like, he's very calm under pressure. He very rarely just hoofs it away aimlessly, which I think is really important to Ole, just based on kind of all his team selections back there. Is he a liability at times in space? Absolutely. Does he make mistakes that lead to goals? Of course he does. I think that's just the nature of how he plays because of how we want to play. And I think we have to be okay with that to an extent. And I also think that's also like a function of the fact that Lindelof isn't progressive enough in possession, which is why I think he needs to be more of a alternate center back than a starting center half. And I think our buildup in a lot of instances this season before Bruno and definitely before we had Bruno and Pogba in the buildup, our buildup play was atrocious. So I think Maguire kind of was punished in a lot of instances for that also. So I was pretty happy with Maguire. Maybe not an 8 is aggressive. So 7.5 is probably where I land on it.
I would say 7 out of 10. But I don't think he should be captain.
You don't think he should be captain?
No, I think Bruno should be captain. I think Bruno's got far more nous about him in terms of like
game management.
Yeah, I mean, people can say what they want. When you saw Bruno going mad after the second goal the other night, all right, maybe it got a bit heated, but personally, I wouldn't even care because that is what your captain should be doing. Your captain should be demanding more of every single player, and I just don't see Maguire. He just doesn't do anything often enough in terms of leadership. You never really see him geeing the guys up. You never really see him giving a bit of stick to some players if that's what's required.
I certainly think he does organises a bit better.
I think he organises, yeah, and I think he brings that to the defence absolutely, and I think he has been a good signing, but I'm not sure he should be captain. I'm really not.
I don't know. I don't know how you can take it. I mean, I don't know the history. Like, can you take it from him now and give it to I feel like that would be very weird.
It's an honour, really. captaincy in the modern game is sort of pointless. It's just the person the ref speaks to, really, in my opinion. But I mean, it's a bit of a slap if you do take it from him and give it to him.
Yeah, I think it's hard to do it now. I'm probably maybe being a bit overly harsh, but I certainly think he should be. Like, Bruno should be vice captain, if not captain.
I do take your point, but at the same time, I think, actually, you don't need to have the most vocal player doesn't necessarily have to be captain. You can have multiple players who will do that, and give players stick, and that's what we need, really. That is something that we've been lacking for a long time. Yeah,
it is, because even I'm reading Michael Carrick's book at the moment, and he says it back in that double winning team in 07-08, players were never scared to go into the changing room or on the pitch and rip into each other. If they thought somebody was letting the team down or was playing a bit poorly, they let them know about it. And I just don't see that. I don't see that enough from our team. If we're struggling, I'm not saying go and have a go at somebody. I just mean in terms of just giving people a bit of a kick up the arse and saying, look, that's not good enough. Pull your finger out.
I agree with that, but I also think I started watching United right around then, so I don't know what the previous 3-4 years looked like. But I would imagine when that team was kind of building towards that, it wasn't that same level of comfort in terms of just being comfortable ripping into each other. And not ripping into each other, but I know what you mean. Being able to criticize each other and not taking it the wrong way, taking it the right way, because you're demanding. You're like, you're better than that. Do fucking better than that. I just feel like this is a team in transition. So I think we added Bruno at the perfect time in terms of, not obviously in terms of making our season comfortable, but just in terms of that, what you talked about, his personality, what he brings to the table, his demanding of more. I think it was the perfect time to add that to the team. And I feel like you will start to see that if we keep this group together. And I think you could see that even with Martial towards the end of the year. He would actually get frustrated when he didn't get the ball and demand the ball.
Yeah.
He didn't just accept it and have a sulk and stand in the corner for 20 minutes. He was actually demanding it more. And I think I really think you'll see that if you keep this group together and add another personality like that, another top player like Sancho or something. I do think we need a little bit more. Sancho is great. If we get Sancho, I'll be very happy. But he's 20. You can't expect him to come in and be the leader of the team and demanding Rashford do more and Martial do. That's unrealistic for him to do that. So I think, yes, it'd be great to get him, but we do need to add, I think, somebody in that similar age bracket to Bruno with that type of a personality that will demand more and be vocal about demanding more. Not in a way that's necessarily I don't want to play with that guy, but more like somebody that you're he's demanding more of you because he expects more of you.
Yeah, certainly. I guess we'll move on to Dan James now. He's sort of come into criticism because people demand more. Do you think he's good enough for United, or do you think he's been thrown in I think he's been thrown in at the deep end. He's come from
Swansea.
Where did he? Swansea, yeah. Huge step up, 22 years old. And then we didn't get all the signings we wanted to. So he was expected to perform. He was expected to perform as a first-team regular for most of the season. So do you think the criticism's unfair? Or
I don't hold him to the standard I would hold Rashford or Martial. He needs to be better for sure. But I think he really lost his confidence because we were depending on him so much as a starter for so long. And he just had that long drought. He totally lost his confidence. And we couldn't rotate him out because Rashford was hurt. And Greenwood, Ole did not want to put him in that kind of spotlight yet. And so, and Lingard and Pereira were...
Lingard and Pereira.
Yeah, you can't... Yeah, exactly. You're not going to play them. And I think there's nobody to kind of take him out of the firing line and step up and take in that position. It's a very hard position that he was put in. And is he good enough for United? Maybe not. I don't know. Based on this season, you would say no. But he is 22. I do think that the pace he brings when he has confidence, I do think that can be a real weapon off the bench. I don't think we should forget that he did have some really good performances this year. Actually, I thought against Manchester City away, he had a great performance in that match. He made Angelino look like a child. And Angelino started today in a Champions League semifinal. So he's not a totally useless player. There is value to somebody with that pace. He's just needs to believe in himself a little bit more. And I do think, like, ultimately, I think you have to give a player like that 2 years. It's not like he was some mega, some huge transfer who was just moping around, not doing anything. Like, he's a 15 million pound transfer that is really trying to make it an incredibly hard step up. It would be really harsh to determine after 1 year, we have to sell this guy or loan him out. I think you keep him in the squad for another year, and at the end of next year, you'll know. I think you'll know by the end of next year whether he's good enough or not.
Between the Europa League and the Premier League, he's got 10 goal involvements this season. And if you were just to look at that in isolation, for a guy that was signed for 15 million, that we knew wasn't going to be a starter, was going to be a squad player, the stats alone, you would look at that and go, okay, actually, that's not too bad, actually. Yeah, you would take that for your first season. I think what he's not been helped with, and I know he's not the same player and he's not in the same position, I don't think what's helped is Mason Greenwood coming in on the right-hand side and just being unbelievable from minute one, with so many goals and chipping in with assists and looking confident and being able to be his man. I don't think he's been helped by that, because at the time when Greenwood's come in, that's when Daniel James's performances were really starting to become really quite poor. But I agree with Ashwin that you can't just write him off after 1 year. It's a £15 million signing. We signed him taking a chance on him, a young guy. He's came from the middle of the Championship at Swansea up to Man United. I honestly don't think we bought him thinking he was going to play more than 15 games this season, and he's had 26 starts.
He has the fifth most appearances, I think, or maybe even minutes.
Which is incredible, really.
6 assists when we were struggling for finding
goals.
Yeah.
Goals. So you can't balk at that, really, can you? Not for a £15 million signing.
Well, in the league, the only two players with more assists than him in the league is Marcus Rashford and Bruno Fernandes.
This guy just gets stats.
I'm a bit prepared this week, mate. Yeah.
It's just a stat man here, Jamie. We'll expect this every time.
I think the thing with James too, and this is actually I think this is a problem that a lot of supporters have, is it all comes back down to where you're trying to go versus where you are right now in this moment as a club. In that moment last year, just considering everything, we did not have Champions League football to offer. You're coming out of some really disastrous spending and just general appointments with a very low ebb at the club. I think there is this demand that, we have to get back to challenging. And of course, we do have to get back to challenging. But, you are not going to go from where we were last season to really, and to where you want to go in one season with, kind of all the different issues at hand, right? So, you have to clear out a bunch of players who are not good enough. And Ole, to his credit, is the first manager, I think, that has really done that to an extent. Still needs to do more, but he has been willing to do that. Pogba got injured. And if you, I think before the season, what I said is we would finish third so long as Pogba did not suffer a massively long injury. And about 6 minutes into the season, apparently, Pogba suffered a massively long injury. And we had to depend on what? We had to depend on Andreas Pereira and Jesse Lingard and Juan Mata, who is, bless his heart, 58 years old. We have to depend on them to create for our forwards. And then because they couldn't do it, you had to depend on Rashford and Martial to just create with each other. And it's you have all these knock-on effects. And I just think, you have to really take a look at this club, and then you have to start judging, is Dan James, was he put in the position you would want to put him in a good squad? No, because in a good squad, you would have been purchasing him at £15 million to come in and be a developmental prospect, right? Oh, we think this he has something, his pace, we think we can develop this. We'll give him some time in the cups and, off the sub bench, and because we're going to be winning, we're going to be walking so many games in the league. That's not where we are. So you can't judge him based on where you want to be a year, 2 years from now. You have to judge him on where you are now. And I think where you are now considering how much you had to lean on him, it was unfair to him. It was unfair to Ole in a way that the board just didn't bring in more. And we know that they will probably be unfair to him again and not bring in more, or enough rather. I have a very hard time criticizing some of the. I mean, James, I can understand to a degree, but like I have a even harder time like the level of criticism that better performers in the squad get when I just think that there's never any. There was for so long during the season, there was never somebody else to come in to kind of take the burden from them.
No,
I thought it was pretty fucking disgraceful how people were talking about Fred after the restart. How like, you know, what does he do? He's a useless player. We got to sell him, move him on. Like, according to the CAF, we should sell him. We should sell Lindelof. And like, I mean, I don't know if they know this, but the Glazers still own the club. So you're not just going to like sell them, bring in replacements, and then go spend another, 150, 200 million. Like that's not how, and that's not how you build a squad. Like it's ridiculous. It's not like it's not FIFA. You can't just buy and sell players every other window. Like Fred proved that he can contribute to a good team. Is he a starting caliber 11 player for a title winning squad? I don't know. Probably not. I don't think so. Not in the Premier League. But he can definitely be part of a title-winning squad. I think he definitely has uses. I think his energy is really useful. Like, there's a lot of players that we have that are good enough to be in a title-winning squad. What we need is to get more of those players. We have like 11 of those players. You need to have 15, 16 of those players before you actually are a title-winning squad.
Yeah. So I guess now we're talking about winning titles, we should move on to rounding the season up and how we felt it panned out ultimately. What were your predictions at the start of the season, guys?
I said top 4.
Third.
You put money on it, didn't you, Jamie?
Yeah, I managed to win it. I think it was 20 odd quid or something like that.
20 quid. All right, enough for a pint.
It's a nice, relaxing final day of the season for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, for the last 20 minutes it was anyway, but yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think I predicted third as well. Rob on the podcast, he chose 9th, so a special shout out to him, the pessimist of the group.
Did he really say 9th?
Yeah, he said based upon the squad and, the signings we brought in, he doesn't think we're gonna fit. Well, we could have finished 9th if Bruno hadn't come in, to be fair. So
I mean, we're laughing, but like that's exactly what Arsenal ended up having in their season, wasn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Do you think top 4 was enough to convince us that Ollie's the man? I mean, I remember Colm having a discussion with Colm, and he said that actually it depends more upon the manner that he achieves it. Like, I asked him if he'd be happy with top 4 and then a cup, and he said, well, it depends.
Colm is still here. He's here to keep the standards of Sir Alex Ferguson alive.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
No, I mean, he's right. I do agree with him to an extent. Like, if we were just Mourinho balling it to, grinding out, and there was no ambition in our play, there was no, like, if it was just, kick it up to some big lumpy separate center forward and hope we can nick a goal every now and then. Like, yeah, I wouldn't want that to be how we qualified for top 4. But
no, absolutely.
I think he is. So he probably, if I remember correctly, he was backed the least in the window of, like, between him, Van Gaal, and Mourinho. I think he was probably backed the least in his first window. He finished the highest in the league.
I mean, he did spend 130 million.
Yeah, but I mean, he also sold a center forward to get his center back in.
Yeah.
Like, I hate when people talk. Like, I mean, we essentially spent 15, and then there was a £5 million difference. So he spent 70 million pounds. Net. Like, that's not a massive expenditure.
Net spend.
I mean, yeah. Just having with Liverpool fans. I think he had a good season. Is he the person to take us to the top? I don't know. I know that's a very big cop out. I will say I don't think he is, but I do think that he is the person to get the squad to where it needs to be for us to actually, have a squad worthy of competing for the title. Because I think that he has the right idea for how Man United should play. I think that he has the right idea for what players need to be brought in and what personalities are required.
I think the problem with that is if you're going to do that, he has to move to director of football. You can't have him build a squad, then bring another manager in.
I mean, if he builds a good enough squad, like let's say there's, I don't know, you get Sancho, you get a good attacking midfielder, another good attacking midfielder, and you get another good center of a half this summer. Like, I think your standard changes to. Do I think that he should compete for a title with a team like that? No, but I think that our goal should be okay. We had 66 points this year. I think the goal should be around 80 points, 85 points, something like that.
That's a title challenge.
No, it's not anymore. Not with how Liverpool and City are going. But independent of how they have gone in how many points they have needed to win these titles recently, that 80, 85 points with the level, if he's backed in the window, is not, and it's not a massive ask. And I mean, I know it's stupid to but if you look at from when Bruno came in, what was that? That's 14 matches. That's a third of the season. We were at the top of the table. Does that mean over 38 we would be? I would suspect not. But, that should be good enough. That's form that should get you to 80, 85 points. I don't think it's crazy to think that he should be able to do that if he's backed in the window sufficiently.
Yeah. And what about you, Jamie?
I don't think he's the man to win us the league, unfortunately, but I totally agree that if he's given the chance, I think he'll leave the squad in the best placed possible status for the next manager to come in, and whoever that may be, to take us on the extra step. I totally agree as well that if that's going to happen, then, well, you need to kind of keep Solskjaer or somebody similar around the club, because the biggest problem we've had since David Moyes is the continuous different type of manager coming in. We spend a whole load of money, we clutter the squad up, we've got an absolute mishmash of players throughout the squad, and then that means the next time the next manager comes in, he's got to start with a clean slate and get rid of a whole load of players, bring a whole load of other ones in. That guy gets sacked, somebody else comes in, rinse and repeat.
Yeah.
And it's like, Ashwin's right with Ollie, where we've got rid of Lukaku, and I've seen people saying, that's him ended up in a cup final with Inter. So what? He wasn't right for us. You can see even the way we are trying to play, he isn't the right player for the squad, which is why we got rid of him. Sanchez
he didn't want to be here either. So
exactly,
I don't see the issue. Either.
Sanchez wasn't the right player for the squad, so we got rid of him. The players we've got rid of so far weren't right for the squad, didn't want to be here. Ollie didn't want them, so we've got rid of them, which is exactly what we've had to do for the last 3 or 4 years, instead of just having so many hangers on. The problem is now, the ones we still have to get out the club are probably the hardest ones to get out the club.
We can let Jones go before his testimonial.
I'll be getting tickets for that.
Oh, man. I mean, did you see that thing on Twitter the other day?
I felt bad.
I felt bad from there, because it's like he doesn't deserve to be ridiculed like that. But at the same time, it's guys like Jones that you need to move on from these players. We need to get these guys out the squad, because they're adding nothing. Guys like him, guys like Rojo, who are just contributing nothing to the squad.
Well, I think Rojo said he wants to stay at Estudiantes.
That's fair enough then.
That's the club that is actually doing that to Jones, because they have not moved him on. They gave him a new contract, so he becomes this even bigger joke. It's
to be fair though, he could decide for himself that he wants more.
I think it's that as well, because you can't just let players go on a free. Because if we just decided, all right, yeah, just let 5 or 6 guys go, we could easily just not have them sign extensions and just let them go. But you need to get some sort of money in. So I can understand them saying to guys like Jones, yeah, sign an extension. It's nothing to do with we want you in the squad for the next 5 years. It's just purely you have to try and retain some sort of equity in these players so that eventually you can try and sell them, just to get something in, because
Smalling
it's like
example.
Smalling as well. Yeah, I fully expect now, because Roma's purchases went through, and it's 2 new. I think it's maybe a family, or it's 2 new owners or something like that at Roma.
It's an American family, I think.
Yeah, I'm fully expecting they'll come back and they'll pay whatever for Smalling, 20 million, 18 million, whatever it might be, and he'll be one of the ones to go out the door first. I think Smalling.
Yeah,
and there was also a report that Pereira was already looking for clubs in Spain and Portugal, and I think I still think Lingard is gone. I don't think he's staying this year. Thank God. But I mean, those. It's like what, Pereira, Lingard, Smalling, Jones, Rojo. I mean, other than that, is there a player that you'd be desperate to unload? I don't think. Maybe Mata, but he's got 1 year left, and I wouldn't
be desperate. He's good
seems
to have
fine
around. He's won the league. He's a good personality out to have around the the squad.
In certain games, he adds a lot as well, though. Like we've seen
Yeah.
against Copenhagen when we were really kind of toiling, and he comes on in extra time. He just gives you another dimension. He just gives you something else. Okay, he's not fast as he used to be. Okay, he's not tremendous anymore, but he still gives you something in certain games. So he's not a player I don't think I would be absolutely desperate to go out the door. But I mean, off the top of my head, Lingard, yeah, Jones, yeah, Pereira, yeah, a lot, sorry, as well.
Oh yeah, Delo.
No.
That's Ed's favorite player.
Keep him around for another season at least.
I just don't. I don't. It's not even. I actually would be fine keeping him, but I don't think Ole has any intention of playing him. So
No.
it makes zero sense for us to keep him.
Yeah,
So
I think you're probably
we should
right
just
there.
get some money in for him.
Well, we're coming up to the hour mark, so I guess what we'll do is player of the season. So I think it's probably fair to split this into pre and post lockdown. So, Jamie, who would you say is your player of the first half of the season?
I'm struggling for the first half of the season purely because there was two that stood out for me, and it was I think Fred, just because for a guy who was really marginalised and kind of ridiculed for the first season, I thought he was excellent. And I think it was Reece, actually, at the start. I remember one of the first episodes of the season, it was Reece who said he was looking forward to seeing him be given a chance because Pogba was out, because he thinks he could bring something to the squad.
Yeah.
He was absolutely right, because you can see that he's got plenty of energy, he runs hard. Some of his performances against the likes of like Man City and Chelsea were just wonderful. Like he just non-stop running, he just hassles all the time. And if you're in midfield, you need a player like that. You need a player that's just going to keep harrying and keep going. Okay, yeah, he could add more goals, he could add more assists, whatever. I just think he was really good in the first half of the season. The other player I would have maybe picked would have been Rashford. So
yeah,
I think it would have been a toss-up between the two of them, because I thought Rashford was brilliant at times as well in the first half of the season.
Ashwin?
Fred would have been my pre-lockdown player of the season. I've always actually really thought I've really liked his skill set since we bought him, just because he takes risks which make him sloppy at times, but he can take the ball deep, receive it, and when we're set up to counter, he's so good in situations like that because he can really receive the ball and get us going forward in a way that I think that all of our other midfielders struggle to do it quickly anyway. So I always like that about him. I think he's a fighter. I think he has a really positive personality.
Yeah.
And he never stops running. He never stops running. His work rate is, honestly, it's incredible. For somebody his size, to have the work rate he has is immense. Yeah, so I thought he was great. I thought in all of our biggest matches of the season, I thought he was one of our best players, if not our best player. Against Liverpool, at Liverpool, I thought he was by far our best player. I didn't even think it was close. Yeah, so I would definitely choose him as the pre-lockdown player of the season. And I guess if I had to pick another sort of like runner-up, I would say Maguire, just because he was on the pitch for the entire time. Rashford missed quite a bit towards the last couple of months, which is the only reason I wouldn't have him second. I will just say Maguire because I'm actually really looking forward to seeing him next year when we're a year removed from everybody talking about his transfer fee.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I think that kind of like he gets held to this ridiculous standard now where it's like as soon as he makes one mistake, it's like, see, he's not worth it. And it just like takes away from so much the totality of what he did this season. And I just like that. I know that not everybody can play through injuries, and I don't expect everybody to play through injuries, but I can respect when somebody does do it and can do it. And I did respect that about him because I think that showed a kind of commitment to making this work and and actually being worth that fee, not just resting on his laurels.
Yeah, I can see where you're coming from there. Well, I suppose it's a clean sweep for Fred because I was going to go for him as well. I wasn't expecting either of you two to go for him. Everything that you guys have said, and I just love the guy. He just does all the simple things well, and he's just very busy, always showing for the ball. He's probably one of my favourite players in the squad, to be quite honest.
He's never scared to make a mistake. That's what I like.
Well, yeah. Yeah.
I like his recoveries as well, to be fair. I think he recovers well. Like, if he does give the ball away, or if we do lose it, he's one of the first that tries to win it back and quite often does get it back.
He does. He takes responsibility. He does. and he apologises to his teammates when he knows he's fucked up and stuff. So I appreciate his attitude, and I think he's actually one of our underrated players. And after the last 2 games, I'd be interested to see if he does actually get more starts in that defensive midfield position.
I agree. I think going into next season, when we're playing against teams that maybe aren't teams at the top end of the league, or teams that aren't the greatest in the Champions League, I think Fred will definitely be the guy that we stick in front of Maguire and whoever the other centre half is, and he'll be the deepest of the midfield, because I think he's proved he can do it. And as Ashwin says, he carries the ball well. He manages to get us on the front foot from a deep position, which you can't underestimate when you're trying to counter quite quickly and you're trying to play with plenty of pace.
He's 2-footed too. He uses his right foot quite a bit for a lefty. I really think that gives him a lot of options. That he's probably. I think he's probably our most 2-footed player. Maybe him and Greenwood. Other than that,
Greenwood's probably.
Well, yeah, as a finisher anyway. But I think when he dribbles, Greenwood, you can tell, favors the left way more. But I mean, yeah, either way, I'm not trying to take anything from Greenwood. I always really appreciate that, because that was something that I was absolutely terrible at, was using my left foot. So I appreciate any player that can actually use their weak foot comfortably and efficiently.
Oh, thanks.
Not you, though.
Oh, right. Okay. So I guess if we're doing second best, McTominay will probably be mine, because him and Fred formed a pretty important partnership in the first half of the season, and we probably wouldn't have got through it if they hadn't.
He chipped them with the goals as well, Scott.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he did. Yeah. Post-lockdown, for me, that's got to be Jesse Lingard. He's come in, he's scored 2 goals, he's ruined one man's life. But obviously, it's got to be Bruno, hasn't it?
It has, yeah. I think close second, though, for me, has got to be Mason.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Because watching him post-lockdown, he was just quality, man. Some of the performances he put in were just frightening. So I can't wait to watch him next season. I can't wait to see his development.
Yeah, I would say my second. I agree. Bruno is, I don't know what else you can really. I don't think anything needs to be said. It's very obvious the impact he had.
Yeah, we've talked about it that much.
Yeah, it's just there's really no question about, people still debate was Maguire worth it. There's no debate about was Bruno Fernandes worth it was worth it. He was worth
Mate, I would pay 150 million for him.
Yeah, he brings so much to the table, so there's no need to really even discuss that in detail. I would say second for me would be Martial. I think that he grew a lot. I thought he was it wasn't just that he was producing, it was how he was doing it, and just his mentality, how bad he wanted to score goals, how. Again, I think I mentioned it last time I was on, but that goal Greenwood had against Villa, Martial's hold-up play actually in our own half kind of allowed that counter to even happen.
Yeah.
And then he didn't take the shot when he could have and laid it off to Greenwood. I think that just shows so much maturity. And, you look at his stats now for the whole season, and given he missed a good 2 months, 3 months maybe. His stats match up with any striker in the league.
So now I'll ask you what has become a tradition. Who gets your Scott McTominay award for being Scott McTominay this season?
What was that? That was the manager's player of the year? Is that what it was?
Was it?
No, I don't think it was. I think it was just a random trophy.
It started out with Mourinho. Didn't realise that Scott McTominay hadn't got an award.
Oh, so it's just like somebody we like and we want to say nice things about?
It's just a Scott McTominay award for being Scott McTominay. Who gets it?
I'm going to say Scott McTominay.
Jamie?
I'll go Scott McTominay as well, yeah.
Diogo Dallo, mate.
Yeah. It's the world-class fullback.
So I guess we'll wrap it up now. Hopefully we'll Colm's a bit of a transfer muppet, so...
Oh, me too.
Oh, Jamie too. So hopefully we'll get those two and Dave, and you can have all the accents on the transfer pod. And I guess we'll call it good night.
Good night.
Good night, troops.